Welcome to another edition of the Above the Bridge podcast. This is episode 40. Shout out to our producer, Boy Band John. What's up, John? 40. We getting there, bro. We getting there. Shout out to our sponsors, Defend Hawaii. If you go on their website, defendhawaii.com, use promo code ATBPOD upon checkout, you'll receive 15% off your entire order. Defendhawaii.com. Also, Detail Garage Hawaii. If you want to get some waxes, polishes, soap, clean your car, make it all nice. DetailGarageHawaii.com. Same thing, promo code ATBPOD upon checkout. You will also receive 15% off your entire purchase order. And to our newest sponsor, Hawaii Candy Factory. And these guys are blowing up. I'm seeing them everywhere. They have these things called noms. It's like lihimui candy. They have gushers, nerds, like spaghetti. They're doing stuff for Halloween. Same thing, hawaiicandyfactory.com. If you go on their website, use promo code ATBPOD, 10% off your entire purchase order. It's pretty simple. For all three sponsors, ATBPOD upon checkout, and you'll get some percentage off. All right. Okay, we got that out of the way. So today, my guest is someone I wanted to talk to for a while. We met his brother in one of the previous episodes, Jaron, who is a nurse. So this is his older brother, Spencer. He's a doctor, and he also is one of the owners for Lineage Surfboard Designs. And I want to talk to him about both that stuff. How you been, man?
Hey, good. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Trying to get it all right, bro. It's a trip. I had your brother on earlier, like, was it a couple months ago, and then now we get to have you. So it's like things been kind of crazy for you. You live in Maui, right? But you work on Oahu.
Yep.
So how's that traveling back and forth?
Yeah, so I grew up over here, and my brother's story. But during the pandemic, I was working on, I've been working urgent care for about 10 years. I've been working on Maui since for the last 3 or 4. But in the early part of the pandemic, things started drying up over there just because of the economic relationship between our clinic and tourism. And so, so things started closing. They started closing, and then they actually closed up for a little bit. And so I immediately jumped over here. So I reached out to, somebody over here in Kaneohe, and he said, "Yeah, Spencer, I can use you. I could have used you yesterday. Can you come over, tomorrow?" And so, so I've been over working here since March of 2020, right as it was declared a pandemic.
So what, the clinics in Maui were more geared towards tourists?
Yeah, just because of the heavy, any given day, there's more rental cars than probably local cars on the road when tourism is doing its thing. And so, so everybody relies to a certain degree on tourism, no matter where they are on the island. And ours was about 70%, they said, relied on tourism.
Wow.
Money.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that makes sense. So would you prefer to be staying in Maui or coming back and forth? I know like you get to go back to where you're from and that kind of stuff, and that must be kind of cool.
No, I mean, right now, we're just kind of rolling with it, but I see that I get the best of both worlds. I get to live, we get to live back home. I get home, breathe the Maui air. And then when I'm here, I still get to see my family, get a little more city life, and then pick up what we need to. And then, but when I'm home, the beauty of what I do when I'm home, I'm just home, just family time. And then when I'm here, I just come to work.
That's kind of cool. So it's like a real distinct separation between work and time with your family. And
so it's good.
It won't bleed over, huh?
Yeah. Pretty hard to get me to come over when I'm on a different island. So,
yeah. So you're at the urgent care clinic in Kaneohe. And
Windward Urgent Care. Yep.
So being that we're in like a city, I guess Kaneohe should consider be a city, but definitely most of the people coming to you guys isn't tourists. It's all local people, right?
It's the other way around. Yeah. So it's mostly locals, and then just a few visitors here and there that probably find them on Google or Yelp. So place I'm working is Scott Miskovich, the guy on TV. It's his clinic, and then he has an urgent care. So I'm kind of when we're here, I'm just here by myself. So in the urgent care, so just me, one person, one man show. And then because of who he is, the main focus has really turned into, we've really become a COVID a COVID clinic or a COVID unit, if you want to call it that. We're not taking care of sick people, but people come there for testing, exposure, symptoms. They need to rule out COVID or figure out whether they have it. It's really what we've become.
Yeah,
just because of the name.
Unfortunately, I was one of your guys' patients there getting COVID tested a couple months back. I got exposed at work, and I had to get COVID tested so I could get cleared. And it's nerve-wracking. And from my experience going to where you guys do your thing, it was cool. I felt safe. You guys had a procedure where I put my name in and they would call me back when it was time for my appointment. And I felt safe. I didn't come in contact with a bunch of people standing in line that may or may not have COVID. I went straight into the room as soon as I got there. They did the testing, and then I went home. And then I went online or my phone, and then I got the results. But to be honest, I felt safe and I've been to ones where like I'm standing in line, people are coughing and sneezing, and they think they have COVID, obviously, because they're in line for a COVID test. So I'm like, bruh, this ain't safe. So I commend you guys on that, and definitely was an experience that wasn't too bad for me. And I mean, getting reamed in the nose with that Q-tip isn't fun, but other than that, it was a pleasant experience under the circumstances.
Yeah. Good to hear.
Yeah. So primarily right now, like, obviously COVID kind of like influenced your whole life right now. You had to change everything and stuff like that. But as a doctor, like, what are you learning from this? And what are the craziest experiences you have with this whole pandemic? I've always wanted to talk to a doctor about this because they're the top guys. They're the ones that are dealing with this stuff the most.
Sure. Well, I mean, to put in perspective what I do, right? I work in an outpatient ambulatory setting. So, you have to be able to walk in to be able to see me, right? So if you're sick enough that you need to be wheeled in and you're on, ambulances aren't dropping people off in the setting that I work in, right? So, I mean, relatively speaking, people aren't that sick. But I mean, COVID has definitely changed. I liken what the pandemic is doing to 911, right? As far as what we're going through right now over the last year and a half is similar to after the 911 attack, right? The world we live in is different now. Everything that we do is different in a way similar to before 911. For those of us that are old enough to remember, you could just roll up to the airport. Security screening was kind of
you could wait with your family at the gates.
Totally different. And post 911, everything you do when you go to the airport is totally different. And I don't know where this is going to go, what the endpoint is. But as far as the way the world works now, I mean, everything is different. You guys know. I mean, a kid gets sick misses school. You call in sick and you miss a day or work, same thing. Now you need a clearance, right? And so everybody that misses work or school for some kind of acute illness, or they say they have whatever, if it's a symptom of COVID, they need either a doctor's letter, right? They need a negative COVID test, or they have to quarantine 10 days. So everything that we do, right, is affected by it somehow. And, the mask life, the vax life, everything. It's affecting every facet of our lives.
In your opinion, like for me, okay, I have a problem not wearing the mask, but just being covered up. Like I'm a personable person. When I'm at the mall, I like to smile at people that I don't know and show aloha and be personable. Do you think not being able to do those things because you have a mask on, you can't really get too close to people? Like, what kind of effects do you think that is just going to have on humanity? Just being able to kind of just be normal. Like, I don't know, like how things are in Maui, but over here is kind of weird. Like sometimes you see somebody and you think you know them, but they have a mask on, so like chance them, you know what I mean? But I'm just wondering, like mental health wise, like how is this going to affect us? In your opinion? I don't know.
I mean, so you brought up a good point. I mean, I think there's a lot of people out there who have various theories on the negative effects of COVID on this generation that we're raising right now, right, on kids. I mean, they missed out on a whole school year academically, right? They missed out on So they went, if my memory serves me correct, when our kids went on spring break in 2020, they never come back, right?
Yep.
And then they were gone. And so they really missed out on, and then the next year was this totally challenging school year in itself, right? Some people were virtual, some were in person, some were blended, then now kids we're still having that challenge now. I mean, so there's all kinds of effects, right? There's the mask issue and the hiding behind a mask, not being able to see our expressions. There's the kids, and whether what that's going to play in their psyche, right? There's we missed a whole school year and a half. I mean, somebody said early on in the pandemic that we were already missing out on a whole generation of scholars just from that one school year. That's how heavy of an effect it was going to have on the generation, like our kids, right? And that we were going to miss out on a whole generation of scholars, which is kind of mind-boggling to think about. But I mean, there's a lot, the whole mental health, people were pent up in the home, right? People were working from home, people lost their jobs, lack of financial security. I think a lot of people led to, more self-medicating at home, doing other things, right? Filling their time. There's a lot of negative things that we're dealing with that we don't know, right? What the long-term effects are going to be. On a positive note, I think people though have also, if you remember early on going to the store and stuff like fitness equipment, right? When the gyms were closed, fitness equipment was sold out everywhere.
Oh yeah.
Right? Couldn't find dumbbells. Couldn't find dumbbells, couldn't find jump ropes, couldn't find whatever, fitness balls, whatever. So it was good to see that people, we're trying to take care of their health in that regard, right? If they couldn't go to a gym. I think people, for a lot of families, one positive is I think people started to work more from home, and some people were able to make a living working at home, and maybe they were able to balance their family life a little better, where they're more visible to their children, more available to their children or spouses. And so I think that was a positive, and there's probably still people who are benefiting from that,
But that's good to kind of focus more on that kind of stuff. So like with COVID, of course, the vaccines came out and like this all controversial. Should you get it or should you not get it? Could you explain how it works? Like, I don't think it works like the same as a regular vaccine where you get a little bit of the disease and your body kind of uses your immune system to fight it. And then now you have the antibodies. It's kind of like a different situation with this vaccine,
So it's different technology. They're called mRNA vaccines, right? So messenger RNA. And so we've already known, not when I say we, the medical community already knew about mRNA technology. They already had the technology. They already knew about coronavirus, right? And so when this virus became famous, right? Come January, February, it was heating up. We were starting to watch it. And then by March 12th, they declared it a global pandemic in 2020. It was like a race against time. So think about every developed country, Japan, United States, China, Russia, Germany, right? United Kingdom, everybody, Brazil, everybody and their brother it was a race against time to try to develop a vaccine as quick as we could to try to make it, a impact on the pandemic, which was unheard of, right? And so as quick as it was, everybody was on it, right? All the drug makers and every country was backing those drug makers because we wanted to try to get a vaccine as quick as we could. The other thing that was unique was they were sharing information, even though it's proprietary, and I'm sure there's financial motivation for the pharmaceutical companies. They actually shared technology when they understood something between each other to see if we could try to get to a solution quicker, which is something that you wouldn't in normal circumstances. Drug companies are not, they're not sharing
definitely.
that stuff, right? Keep it on lock and key. The other thing that was interesting or unique about this one is normally when you test a vaccine, right, it goes over different phases in the trials, right? You go like phase 1 through phase 5. And normally a phase 1 will go for a year or two, right? And then you go on, once you've shown that there's a little bit of data that shows it's not harmful and that it's effective, then you get approval from the FDA to go on to the next phase. And that takes time. But the way they stacked it with this vaccine, when these became available, was they did them sequentially. So they overlapped. So when
Oh,
phase one was going, once they met a certain threshold that was considered to be safe, they were able to implement phase two where they overlapped. And so instead of waiting waiting for next approval to go on, they had enough data because there were so many people being studied as well that they were able to overlap phase two, phase three, phase four. And so it as quick as it was warp speed, it was done in a little bit different manner than normal. But the good news is we know that it's safe. It's been studied on tens of thousands of people, and they went through the exact same process, but it was just done a little bit different because it was done overlapping each other. And they couldn't overlap to a certain degree. There's some of that I don't fully understand, but it was done that way. The other thing that's unique about this vaccine, studying it, is normally when you're studying a vaccine, you're testing to see if it works in preventing illness. And normally when you're testing for, say, chickenpox, right, there's not that much chickenpox circulating. And so it takes years to get the data. People have to be exposed to the illness. But then during COVID, if you think about it, they had thousands and hundreds of thousands of volunteers throughout the world, and we had tons of illness. So never before were we doing this when we had this many people who can get the vaccine and then be exposed to the virus in real time. And so we're able to collect years and years worth of data in a very short period of time because of all of these different reasons. So if you stack them all up together, we're able to get it in a 9-month period of time. And I know everybody has concerns because normally it takes 5 or 7 or whatever years, and 15 years for vaccines, quicker for drugs, but slower for vaccines. But if you add up all of those different reasons, that's why they were able to get the vaccine rolled out. And the other thing, right? They already, when vaccines went into the early stages of trials, the different countries backed the drug companies financially upfront, right? So Trump or the United States already backed the early forerunners, AstraZeneca, Moderna, Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson. When they had an initial guy going, before we even knew whether it was going to get passed or not, they made tens of millions of vials so that if it ever did get approved, then we could roll it out right away. If it didn't get approved, they would get destroyed. But we were able to produce those before it was even approved. So the minute they gave the green light, they were able to roll it out, right?
wow.
So
that
different process.
That little conversation just now made more sense than anything I've heard on the internet, on the news, from anybody. Like, that made sense. You know what I mean? It just makes sense how it came to be. And I never thought about that. Of course, you have thousands and thousands of more people to try it out because of the pandemic's happening. It's
and everybody
literally infecting.
Yeah,
That's
parents
insane.
and kids. So we had tons of volunteers. There were people volunteering in every state of the US as well as all over the world, right? And then you had lots and lots of disease to be exposed to for them to get data quickly.
That's
and then
crazy.
They overlapped everything. So when you put it that way, I think it makes me feel better about the vaccine, right? Especially the ones that we're getting in the United States. These were developed by large pharmaceutical companies. And I'm not a fan of pharma. I'm not a fan, right? There's no financial, right, with what I do, right? And so I'm not a fan of them making money. However, when it goes through the FDA, right, the FDA has to make sure that there's enough data that shows that it's effective. And then there's also enough data to show that it's safe for the bigger, for the overall population. And then the other thing is you gotta roll it out. And so, I feel good. And then the other thing is they also make sure that they're monitoring. If you think about like drugs, you always hear on the news, such and such drug got pulled from the market, right? Yeah. So the Food and Drug Administration, in order for them to give their seal of approval, they're constantly monitoring the manufacturing process as well, making sure there's no impurities, there's nothing that's been found to be harmful. And if something wasn't done right by any one of these companies, they would pull that right away and it wouldn't get to production, right? And so they would stop it right in the middle of it. So these things are, when you put it all that way, I think it's a lot safer and people can feel a lot better about it, understanding the process. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing, is so much crap out there. Nobody knows what to understand. So scientifically speaking, how exactly does this vaccine work? You get the shot. What happens in your body?
Well, that's right. Yes. So it's not giving you the virus. It's giving you a little piece of messenger RNA from one of the proteins. So if you see on the news, they show the COVID pandemic, it has a little ball with a bunch of spikes on the outside. That's what the virus looks like. Okay. And so what they're doing is they're giving you a piece of RNA stuck into a little molecule of fat, and then with a little bit of salt water, and they inject it into us. And that's all there's in. There's a little sugar, a little salt, a little fat molecule that has the RNA inside it. That RNA is just a piece of RNA that replicates helps our body to recognize the spike protein on the outside of the virus. And so when it comes into our body, that RNA cannot come into it gets into the cell, but it cannot get into our DNA, and it doesn't get into the production of our cells. And so all it does is our body recognizes the RNA. It now produces an antibody against the spike protein, so that if we ever get exposed to the virus or something that looks like the virus, our body will now have immunity to it, and it will recognize it prior to getting the infection. And so it's not giving us, a lot of flu vaccine is weakened virus, where they dumb down the virus and you actually get some virus. But this one's not that way. It's just the piece of the mRNA for the spike protein.
Wow, that makes sense. It's like getting kind of like for your computer, a patch for a virus that may come or may not come.
And that's all it's doing is it's just there now. So our body has immunity. So when you inhale a virus or you get exposed to a bunch of it, your body, as the virus is trying to, what they do, viruses use our body as a host, right? They replicate themselves in our body. They use our body as a power grid, right? And so what they're doing in the beginning is they're making hundreds of millions of copies of themselves. It's like a cancer. They just grow and grow and grow. And they're replicating over and over and over. In the beginning phases, if you have immunity to it, then your security patch should recognize it and then not allow it to set up camp in you and put a line of defense and say, hey, you're not going to come here, right? Obviously, we are aware of people who get breakthrough cases where you get sick, even if you had the vaccine, which does happen. These viruses are smart. We can talk more about that in a sec. But as you get exposed to it, sometimes it's going to overwhelm your security system, right? If you're in the wrong situation with somebody who has the Delta variant and they're in their peak of infectivity, and you just sat and had a meal with them for an hour without your mask on, and you were sitting there eating, drinking, and they were shedding virus, not knowing they were sick. That's a lot of virus. And if you get they call it viral load. If you get a big viral load, sometimes even if you have immunity, your body may not be able to put up enough of a response to prevent the virus from still replicating in you, because you get like a tidal wave of virus particles coming at you all at once. And so those first couple of days, that incubation period when the virus is building up in you, which they say can take up to 14 days, that's when your body is determining what is its immune response going to be to the exposure that you just had. And that's when your body's going to decide, am I going to get sick, or am I going to put this to rest and not get sick after exposure?
Wow, that broke it down. That's amazing. Like, we should have had you on earlier. That's a lot of questions been answered just in those last 10, 15 minutes. Like, so the biggest thing of concern, at least for what I'm hearing, is like they cannot tell what the long-term effects are because they didn't get to try it out on long-term because it came out so quickly. What would be the thought process behind why people shouldn't worry about that?
Yeah, so I mean, that's a tough question, right? Even for us to answer sitting here only 2 years into this, or a year and a half into the pandemic, and only not even a year into using the vaccine in real life. But if you look at, and part of it, I guess you're gonna have to put a little trust or faith into our medical system, and I think that has broken down for a lot of us. So for that one, I'm just gonna insert this emoji, and that's for them, right, to decide. But if you look at our track record with vaccines, right? I mean, people who are, say, concerned about getting this vaccine, they also have gotten, the majority of them. I mean, there's people out there who just don't get any vaccines. And for those people, I'd say, hey, maybe this isn't the right thing for you, right? You continue to not get vaccines, so go ahead. But for those of us who have already gotten 30 or 40 other shots, tetanus, diphtheria, pertussis, influenza, respiratory, RSV, rhino, all the other viruses. Some of them we know a lot about, others we don't, right? People don't know what polio is who grew up in our generation, right? But they still got 3 or 4 inactivated polio vaccine when they were little kids, right? Every time they get a cut in their finger, what do? They come running with us and say, oh, I stepped on a nail, I need a tetanus shot. Do they realize when they get the tetanus shot that they're also getting acellular pertussis, right?
Yeah.
And diphtheria, and diphtheria as well. Do they even know what those things are? No, but they still get the shot anyway, right?
Yeah.
And so I think sometimes our concerns about things are a little bit blown out of proportion. We know people know a lot more about COVID than they do about a lot of these other vaccines that they got, but they're still very hesitant to get this vaccine.
Yeah.
But they didn't hesitate at all to get the other vaccines that they knew nothing about.
Exactly.
And so if you look at the track record in the US, I mean, there hasn't ever been anything that has led to like these studies that showed vaccines cause autism back in, they were never replicated. The guy who actually wrote the paper actually withdrew it and said there was no medical, foundation behind this. And he withdrew his papers. So we don't have heavy metals. They're not injecting lead into you. You're not getting DNA. There's no trackers in it. You're not going to become metal
magnetic.
by doing this.
Yeah.
Magnetic and all that. So it's, we don't have long-term effects from all the other vaccines we've gotten. We're doing just fine. And so if you trust that, then I think you can trust this. It went through the same process. The house that they put the vaccines into, right, is very minimal. Where, like I said, it's sodium, a little sugar, a little lipid soluble, whatever, to get it into the cells, and then that's it. They've already screened it for all the other stuff that they've known to be harmful in the past. So I guess part of it is going to take a little faith on people, but I trust things done in the United States. Maybe another country I don't know about, but if it was made here, if the FDA went through its process, I trusted it. I got mine in December and January. I'm due for a booster. My family has all gotten it, and we've done well. I know that's just a small grouping of people, but I think people can trust it. It's a personal, but we won't get political here today. But it's a personal decision that I think
I agree with that too.
And they just need to make it. But I do think though a lot of times I run into people, and maybe their decisions that they're making might not be based on the best information.
That's what I'm talking about. That's why you're here.
I'd like them to make that decision based on some good information. And then once they've gotten good information, whatever that is, right, from a good source, then they can make a decision that's best for them and their family, right?
And I feel like the information we're getting is so politically driven that people can't make, like what you just said in the past 20 minutes made more sense to me. And I feel like if people heard it, how you presented it, they could make a better educated decision. I'm pro people being able to have that choice to do or not to do. But for me, I got vaccinated for work and stuff, but I asked my head doctor, who's a world-renowned epidemiologist from France. And to be honest, he's probably the smartest person I ever met. And he's world-renowned. And he said he's going to get it the first day he can. And I'm like, okay, well, this guy knows more than me and anybody I'm going to read about in social media. So that kind of alleviated my fears just because he's going to put it in his arm. But I do believe a lot of people not knowing could make them hesitant. I had a friend at the gym, which came up to me and told me this, which was funny, but kind of made sense. But shout out to Chad. He told me majority of the people that are healthcare workers, first line workers, all the people that would be help taking care of other people got the vaccine. So if something was wrong with the vaccine and all the healthcare workers passed away from it, all the front line, all the firemen, all the police, if all of them got it, they all got killed from it or something went wrong, who's going to take care of the rest of the people? I don't want to live in that world. Like that's just going to be like, if all the doctors and healthcare workers are done from the vaccine, like who's going to take care of the rest? It was just a funny thing, but it made sense to me. I was like, I never thought about that.
I mean, the majority of us were lining up right when it was ready. I mean, I knew the minute it was available to me, I was going to get it. Right. I was fortunate to. I'm just around it every day. I knew that if you weigh my risk benefit for me, even if I don't know much about this current vaccine at the time, right, which I knew a lot less about it then than I know now, the benefit was still so high because I live, eat, sleep, and drink. I breathe. I mean, my life revolves around COVID. I get on a plane And I've been riding planes from the beginning, right? I get on a plane, I go to fight, I work all day fighting COVID. I get on a crowded plane, I go home, around visitors from all over. I'm just around it all the time. And so for me, there was no ceiling to me getting it, right? The benefit is huge, right? With the
Yeah.
amount of exposure that I have, and the risk was super small. So it was a really easy decision for me. It's not that way for everybody else, right? A lot of people
Correct.
don't see it the way we do. They may not feel they're under the same set of risk. And then they also
Yeah.
don't want to assume risk with the vaccine, not understanding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I do believe everybody should have their own choice. I feel like you shouldn't be penalized for whatever you choose,
Yeah.
but I feel like the people that be should be putting out more information about it so people can make a better educated decision and not be swayed by all the nonsense on the internet and social media. Granted, there are some good information on there, but half the time you're just scrolling through Instagram and read something and people believe it, and then it becomes just poor information.
Yeah.
I just think the more people know, the better decisions they can make, and hopefully this thing will get put to rest soon. So on a funnier note, like, what are the craziest situations you've been in working at your job? I mean,
So to be honest with you, the most scary time that we had was in the very beginning, right? And so when I showed up that first day, we had moved. So the urgent care, right? Urgent care is like, if people don't know what that is, it's like we're not the emergency room, but you're not your primary care doctor's office. So it's somebody has acute health need that needs to be seen today, but it's not a medical emergency. They can go to an urgent care. So they have a bladder infection, they have a rash, they have an ear infection, they have a cut, they need stitches, they think they've broken arm, it's not sticking out of their arm, they're not having a heart attack, not having a stroke, right? Those kind of things come to urgent care. So pre-pandemic, urgent care was all of that, right? But then when the pandemic hit in full gear, everybody was scared to go to the doctor. So everybody was in the beginning, when I first started working, we were like on a lockdown. The roads were empty. Nobody was working. You had to be like essential to be going out, right? And for a little while there.
Correct.
And so we moved, but because of the risk of COVID in our facility, they moved us to a different location off campus. And so when I started, we were in this very unique location that I'm not going to say too much about, but it felt like you were in a prison. So we were all wearing Tyvek suit. So you come in the beginning of shift, you put a Tyvek suit on, full on the kind, the weed whacker, whatever, and N95 mask, right?
Yeah.
And then and booties and gloves. Yeah. And you never eat, never drink on the whole shift. So what we did was the shifts, you stay in that suit the whole time. In the beginning, we don't know how contagious it is. We don't know much about the virus. So we are scared to drink. We're scared to touch anything, right? So we just pound on whatever, energy drink, pound a Gatorade, whatever, go to work, stay in the suit, and then just sweat the whole time. And then we would cut the shift, and you don't want to touch anything. So we would just stay like that the whole time. And so we had minimal, like basically the patients, similar to the process you experienced, but a little different though. The patients would stay in their car. We would radio, like we didn't want to open the doors. So we would like radio, walkie-talkie kind to the front and say, okay, room 1 is ready. Let so-and-so come back. And then they would like call the patient waiting in their car. They would tell them, come in, tell them, don't touch anything. Just go directly to the room and close the door. And we had nothing in the room other than a plastic chair that you could wipe down. And so it looked like a prison. They'd walk in, they're sitting in there, and everybody comes walking up to them in these white suits and hazmat, the kind you can barely hear us because we're talking through all this stuff. And I think they were scared, and so were we at the time. But in the beginning, it was nuts because, I mean, for as many people that were scared about getting COVID, we actually couldn't test very many people at the time because the state had certain criteria you had to meet in order to get the test. So they had to have they had to have traveled plus had symptoms. And you had to have traveled to a certain part of the world that had COVID already. And if you didn't, you did not meet criteria to get the test. So like, at the beginning, we would see all these people and a lot of them had symptoms or whatever, or they came back from a trip. But if they didn't come back from Washington State or California or came from China or came from the UK or wherever COVID was, they didn't qualify for getting the test. And so I had to like disappoint. People used to fight with me in the beginning, like, how come? I don't understand why you guys. And I had to, because that was the only way you could test them. So those are some pretty crazy times. We did that for a couple of months, just like that, white suits, not touch, whatever. And then we kind of been through.
Well, what I did gain from that, which I kind of thought was cool, especially at the beginning, was how the community really got behind the healthcare workers. They would bring
Mm-hmm.
food and make
Yeah.
masks, and it like long overdue. Our healthcare workers, they don't get the respect that they deserve.
And
They
first
always,
responders
yeah,
and
and
our
first
frontline first
responder
responders,
for
those guys.
sure.
Yep. Yep.
And honestly, you guys is risking your life. I mean, I work for research, so I don't really come in contact with the general public. So I'm not risking my life as much as you guys, but every single day you're basically rolling the dice and you just give yourself the best odds with the PPE you get provided with. And I mean, who knows? What if you get a faulty mask, or what if
Yeah.
like it's
And
just,
we are reusing them right in the
yeah,
beginning. Yeah.
that's true.
Yeah. It was neat. It was neat to see in the beginning of the pandemic how everybody came together. Like I felt like as a community, everybody kind of had each other's back. We were
Yeah.
watching out for our friends and neighbors. We were taking care of each other. We were checking in on each other when people were going through, their job got shut down for a while. You would help them out, right? The community had all these food drives. We had testing
Yeah.
drives. Yeah, we was doing people were, yeah, you're right. People were going, all the cloth was selling out because everybody was making masks and donating them. It was really neat to see in the beginning. I mean, it seems like it was so long ago now,
Yeah.
right? We've been at this for so long, but it was really neat to see how everybody came together. And that was like not just Hawaii. I mean, I think that kind of aloha spirit was in other places as well. Everybody really got behind each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in the beginning, I thought for sure, man. I mean, knowing what I know and doing what I did, I thought for sure I was gonna get it. I was just like, yeah, it's just a matter of time till I get COVID, right?
Yeah.
But the bigger fear was just making sure that I didn't give it to anybody else if I ended up getting it, right?
Yeah.
So,
Especially your kids and whatnot.
yeah,
And it's nerve wracking because even at work, even for us, like now you're putting on all this extra PPE. You don't want to forget something.
hmm
Like you're screening people as they come in. It's like a whole bunch of more work you got to do, and you cannot cut corners because like it could be a big life or death situation. And
yeah,
yeah, shout
yeah,
out to you guys for putting yourselves at risk. And I mean, it's crazy to think of, and people don't understand the risk that's involved with just taking care of other people. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. Thank you. We appreciate that. That's the sad thing is that we're this far into it, right? And we're still
Yeah.
dealing with this. That's the hard. That's the part. I think that's the part that gets hard. That's really hard to swallow for us. Is we've been
Yeah.
going at it for so long, and then like the question is when are we going to get this behind us? When is the end? What's the end point? How when are we going to be safe? When can we get back to normal? Right. That's where everybody. It's just like it still keeps going and going.
Yeah.
But
Like
things are getting better
yeah,
though. Yeah.
it gets better, then it opens up, then it gets closed, and it opens up. And it's like, I can see people getting frustrated. And it's like, what are the other choices? We're living in a freaking movie right now. It's
Yeah.
insane. Like,
Yeah, it is.
well, let's talk about some fun stuff, man. So you started a surf company, and what is it with you and a partner?
Yeah. So, pandemic. So, won't get too much into it, but yes, I've always had a thing for surfing. I worked in surf shop growing up. Worked
Which
with a
one? Which one?
locomotion in Waikiki.
Oh,
Yeah,
Waikiki.
yeah. So
Winter
worked
Mall. That was
local.
our hangout. Okay, cool.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's
I know a lot of those guys. They've all
some
gone on
hot
to do
chicks,
other
the one
other
at the
great
mall.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so worked in surf shops, and then along the way I've been helping somebody else with his business, right? Shout out to Uncle Chuck Andrus. So long
Oh,
time
nice.
surfboard maker. He's a
It's the
Kaneohe
Ikaika
boy at
helmet
heart.
logo, huh?
Yeah, that's the one.
I've seen that
Yeah,
before.
so
Yeah.
he's been shaping since he was 12 years old, and he's 66 now, and so he's been shaping a long time. And so in the 80s, he was under the HIC logo, and then later he joined Rob Burns at Locomotion under their label for a lot of years, and then he's been on his own since the early 2000s. So I've been kind of helping him just on the business side, just because he's really old school, yeah. So
Oh,
just been
okay.
doing like his social media and kind of contact
Marketing.
person and doing stuff. And so I've always kind of dabbled in it and wanted to be more involved in it, like on a personal level, but never really knew where it was going to be for me. And then comes mid-pandemic, and one of my partners, a good friend of mine I've known for a long time, a lot smarter than me. He's also a physician. He's a radiologist.
Oh,
And
wow.
so, but just kind of like, he's good. One of those guys, photographic memory, he can do anything, And so he tells me one day, early pandemic, he says, Spencer, all the stuff you're doing with Uncle Chuck, I've always wanted to learn how to shape boards. And and I'm like, bro, how come you never told me earlier? He's like, well, I didn't really think about it until now, but it's like, I've always wanted to really, get into this and learn. I've always had interest, and I was never really the make it, fix it kind of a guy. I was more of a buy it and maybe more on the other side, on the retail side of things or
Yeah,
marketing
yeah.
side of things. And so we kind of just decided, hey, well, if he really wants to get into the making and the fabricating and the designing, let's learn the process, right? So we had people that would teach us, and we had templates and things to learn from. And now, with the way the world works, I mean, you can learn almost anything, online. But so it's kind
Yeah.
of been a process. But so we've been just kind of doing this. So we both live on Maui, and we kind of started this mid-pandemic. And what we wanted to do though is we wanted to build a brand, and we wanted the brand to have some kind of a meaning. And so we stewed over the names for a really long time. It probably took us longer to get the name than to get this other stuff going. But
Well,
then once we got,
yeah, that's hard to
yeah,
do. You know what I mean?
yeah. And so Lineage for us was about, so Lineage to us was really about roots and understanding where you come from and the connection between family, right? And so if you think about like who the first person was in Hawaiian culture, we were derived from the kalo. Yeah. And so when I say we, I'm speaking as a people, not me personally, but that they believe people came from their root, that their roots, right? We came from kalo. And so Lineage is a similar thing where we're all connected in some way. And so we wanted a brand that really connects us to where we're from and where we are, but then something that expands out and reaches out globally. And so we wanted it to be core though around surfing. And so we're learning the process of building boards, not just shaping, but building surfboards from start to finish. So the whole process. And so we've been doing it all by hand, one by one. And my partner Troy's been doing the heavy lifting there. And so
Yeah.
he's working his day job, and then he's working at night on his own time, doing that, also putting out designs and doing everything else. And then we're just kind of doing it one by one. Slowly, though, as we're learning that, we're also trying to slowly build a little bit of a brand. And we've kind of picked up into a little bit into the skate and the snow. They're all kind of connected. And
Yep.
so
Yep.
so we've kind of picked up a couple kids, some riders who skateboard as well as
That's
surf,
super cool.
and we're going to slowly try to branch out. He has some ties to places that are more in snow country, and so eventually we'll get there as well. So
All
yeah, we
right.
wanted
Well, I
the core to be around
snowboard,
surfing.
so yeah, that'd be cool. So Lineage is the name of your guys' company, and like I like the concept behind it. What I was impressed the most just from looking at your Instagram and stuff is what you just said. You're not just a clothing company or surf clothing company. You guys are actually making boards, making the surfboards. That's to me was more different than a lot of brands that I see or Joe Smo coming out with their clothing line. You know what I mean? It's like, wow, these guys are a surf company. And I thought that was impressive, but I also liked your logo. Like your logo kind of stuck out to me. And it's kind of like, here, I have it right there from one of Hatchie gave me. It's like the shaka. It looks like a shaka, but it has the Hawaiian Islands. But how did you guys
Yeah.
come up with that logo?
So my partner does a lot of the graphics, but part of so I met him in Japan. Okay, he's from the race. He has ties to Hawaii, but raised on the mainland. And but we met in Japan a long time ago. But when the city that we were living in at the time was Mikuni Gaoka, and the character was the three lines, the three bars, and the
Oh,
character
okay.
was the three bars, but it was turned this way. And so we wanted to somehow incorporate, a little bit of that. And so the three bars can represent lots of things, surf, skate, and snow,
Yeah.
can represent.
Oh,
So there's a little bit, but it does represent a shaka in the design, but then it also kind of represents where we met and where we started our history together. And then we wanted to
that's sick.
incorporate like the based out of Hawaii, because that's really where everything is made here right now, and everything is about coming from here. We really want to promote that, right? So
That's super cool. That's a cool concept. People got to hear that, man.
yeah, we'll get it out there. It's a process. I mean, for us, we're just kind of organically trying to grow it. We both
Yeah.
have to. We have families to support, and we're not 20-year-olds that whatever. We're professionals, and so we have to keep our regular things going. And so that's why
Yeah.
it's not going as fast. You know, if we could jump into this full time, we could probably grow faster. But we're both doing what we do and then doing this on the side. So
Yeah, I'm pretty sure your wife wouldn't be happy you dropped being a doctor to be a surf brand company. Maybe
at least not make
eventually,
not
yeah.
yeah, if it ever grows. Yeah, not
Yeah.
not making what we're making now, doing it anyway. Yeah, yeah,
Hey, it's start and you guys came up with this concept during the pandemic.
yeah, yeah. So that's really where it started, was right in the middle of the pandemic. So it really didn't get kicked into high gear till right about a year ago. Right
Oh,
about
that's
right
pretty
about one
cool.
year from now. Yeah.
And
And
being the fact that I know your blood, your DNA, like I know the hustle that's in your family. I mean, even now, your dad's flipping BMWs. I was at your house the other day, and he has like seven Beamers
yeah,
that he's trying to
no more
flip.
room to
And then,
park over there.
yeah,
Yeah,
for
yeah,
turnaround. And then
yeah,
Jaron, I knew most of my life, and he always has a hustle going on. He's always trying to
yeah,
level up. And I guess when I heard about your brand, it kind of made sense. It's like, bro, that's what they do. They try to hustle and do different things and try to do stuff. Just this one, like, brings a community, and like you said, the surf companies, like any kind of, I guess, sports in general, like extreme sports, I guess that would be. But yeah, if you're getting into snowboarding and that stuff, I could see how it could all cross over. And like,
yeah. Yeah, we have a lot of brands that we look up to, right? That also incorporate like the artistic side of things, right? As well as,
yeah,
I'm not going to name them because we're not trying to whatever, but there's a lot of brands or companies out there that we respect, right? And that we're trying to emulate. And you take a little piece of everybody, and then you're trying to
yeah,
build up your own thing. But yeah, I mean, it's easy to get behind something like this, right? It's
yeah,
some days it's hard to get up and go 9 to 5, get on and do your thing, but it's a lot easier to get up when you're doing something that you really love, and as much
yeah,
as I love medicine, I still love it, but nothing replaces my love for surfing, right? And so
yeah,
there's something special about that. And so I think that's the goal. The big goal is to eventually grow that enough to where we can be spending more of our time and energy there, and
yeah.
really getting behind a product, right? Getting behind products that we really believe in, that are earth conscious, right? And that are collaborating with, bringing up new artists, right? So you're collaborating with artists and getting new designs and new lines growing, and then also trying to sponsor kids, right? So trying to find
Yeah.
kids wherever they are, right? You're just trying to find those kids, and you're trying to find a kid with a neat story or a neat family or maybe a special need, and you
Yep.
and you can just pick somebody up and then just kind of get behind them, and you grow together. And so that's so
Hey,
that's that's
man.
that's exciting. So it gets me up.
And any little thing, like for a kid, you notice a kid at the skate park and he does a cool trick. It's like, oh man, that's awesome. Like, we want to get behind you, give him a hat, a sticker. It's like, bro, those little things matter. And those little
Yeah.
things are what kids will take throughout their whole life. Oh, this guy supported me, or this guy showed that he was interested or showed some aloha to me. Like, I'll remember that. And I mean,
Yeah.
I do. I remember going to locomotion and whoever was there would give me a sticker for my
Oh, see.
board, or like,
Yeah.
it's just little things like that make a difference, and it's something that you carry within your whole life. So your love for surfing grew as a little kid. Are you passing that same love to your children?
Yeah. So that was the selfish reason for me, right? My training was long, right?
Yeah.
College, med school, residency, and we left after medical school. I went to UH for med school, but we left for residency. And then that was when I really started my family, was right as I was leaving Hawaii. So we were gone for 11 years. And
Oh
so
wow.
um, selfishly for me, even though we had a great life on the mainland, right? And we had so much more that we could offer them as far as like cost of living and activities and good schools or this and that. Everything's free if you live in a good city, right? But
Yeah.
but push comes to shove, there's something special about raising your kids here, right, in the Aina, and then
I
raising them
agree.
in and around the water, and more in touch with the land that we came from. And so yeah, so I selfishly started looking at jobs, and when we moved back in 2018, I didn't want to force my kids into it, but I tell them, if you're a CHUN and you're a Spencer Chun kid, and you're gonna surf. It's just a matter of time. And so we spend when I'm not here, right? When I'm not here doing COVID stuff, that's where you'll find me. So, and it's usually with my kids. So yeah, everybody's gotten into it in various stages. My oldest one's really taken off, and the younger two are getting into it. So yeah, I spend more of my time teaching them.
Oh, that's cool. And eventually they'll be riding your boards.
Yeah.
The boards that you guys make. Yeah, that's super cool. Yeah, you're right though. You guys do have salt water in your veins, bro. I know your brother is one of the best divers I ever met. And he always, I mean, my fridge has always got some fresh fish in there because of him. So that's always a cool thing. But so this brand, where do you see it in the future? Like, what would be your biggest aspiration for it? I mean, you going like Billabong or like that kind, or you want to be more sky's the limit, or what is your future goals?
We don't really want to limit it, right? I mean, if you really think, I mean, so Troy and I have ties to here, but we also have strong ties to Japan. The surf market is rather saturated in the United States. So I think the next place we're going to try to take it is to Japan, right? And so I think that's the next step to leave. Once we leave Hawaii, we're going to try to get to Japan. But I mean, honestly, what we really see is building a brand with a team of ambassadors, right? Whether they surf, skate, snowboard, or if they just represent the brand. We just want to find a team of ambassadors to represent the brand, represent Aloha, represent Hawaii, right? And so we're always looking for people, and that's important. The other thing is, if we can ever grow this thing, we want to be able to give back. So we want to find team riders. We want to be able to hold events, right? We want to be able to do things to try to back the community. And then I think the other is we really want to have like a network of artists where we try to find artisans, builders, creators. And the nice thing about the way the world works, everybody can do everything online now. And so we can collaborate with people throughout the world. And that's our big goal, is to be able to collaborate with people throughout the world that create and innovate things, and they can help us design lines. And maybe there'll be people, hopefully the goal is I mean, it'd be nice to go to people that are already established in the business, but I think there's a better story about finding people and helping them grow together. So we find somebody who hasn't been found, and we collaborate together, and then they help us with new ideas, and then we help them grow together. And so that's where we really think, you know, the big goal for us is to be able to do this full time. Like at some point in my life, right, I'm not going to be able to keep sewing, doing stitches for the rest of my life. And so at some point I want to be able to wake up, you know, and be just promoting this, right? Checking on inventory, checking on team riders, checking on this, taking surf trips with or whatever, right? And that's where that's the pipe dream, is to be living that, right? And then doing the medicine. And then at that point, if we ever get there, medicine now we can do for fun. Right now it's the reverse, right? We're doing medicine because we have to, and we're doing this for fun on the side. But it would be awesome to do it the other way around, where we don't need the medicine income anymore, and we have a brand that we can really feel good about, and products that we can really get behind, and people that we can really love and get behind. And then now we're doing the medicine just to give back, where we just find the need. So that's where I think Troy wants to be. That's where I want to be, you know, at some point.
Well, good luck with that, bro. I mean, grassroots from the beginning, and it'd be cool to see you guys grow. Like, just personally, I would kind of want to see, like, from the beginning to how far you can take it. And that's a good idea, going to Japan. I know Japan has a big snowboarding industry, and it's becoming more and more popular. Like, I want to go to Hokkaido and snowboard. I heard it's crazy. Yeah. And I'm definitely going somewhere this year, man. I don't know where, but I'm definitely going snowboarding this season for sure.
Right on. Yeah, well, long overdue.
Yeah. Right on, man. Well, we've been going for about an hour. I think John can bust out the question of the week. Any questions for him about COVID or anything? I'm so happy that he broke it down as a person that I can understand. Like, you get Dr. Fauci and all these big wigs on the TV, and I don't know what the hell they're talking about. He broke it down in the most simplest form, and I understood it. Like, that's what people need to hear, I think. I don't know. Made sense to you?
Totally. Yeah. So, Spencer, question of the week. Okay, in your opinion, what does Hawaii has to do as a community to get things back to normal? And also, two-parter actually. Growing up, who was your favorite pro surfer?
Okay.
Oh.
So question number one, and we're not going to get political today, right? And so,
No, yeah.
yeah, question number one, I believe we're already getting there. And kind of what we talked about, how in the beginning of the pandemic, people were so willing to help each other, and we were all there backing each other up, and we were there helping out our neighbors, helping out our family, helping out our friends. I think we're going to need to come back and we meet in the middle somewhere, right? So everything has become so divided recently.
Yeah.
And I think in order for us to get past this, everybody's going to have to come somewhere in the middle. And that doesn't mean that people have to give up everything or jump over to the other side, but we're going to have to come back to the middle. And I think we're getting there from a medical standpoint, epidemiologically. So if you look at where the numbers are and where they're trending, COVID is slowing down. The Delta surge is slowing down. I think the worst is behind us. And there's probably a couple of reasons, right? One is it's already ripped through so many people, right? Natural immunity, so from my understanding of watching a lot of videos and reading about this, a lot of natural immunity is building up now, right? We've been at this for a year and a half. So a lot of people have already gotten over the infection, right? They either muck it or they got it and they resolved and they're better. And now they have good immunity. And then because we're far enough along, people have fake immunity, right? They've been given a shot. Now they're even lining up to get their boosters. So if you look at all that, I think what's going to happen, if we can get through one more season, one more winter, one more spring, one more summer, by next fall, my hope and my goal is that enough of us would have gotten the illness and gotten better. And then the sick ones didn't make it. And that's right. That's what's going to happen. That's what happens. Thins to hurt a little. And then those who didn't get it got the vaccine, right? And then some even who get the vaccine are going to get the illness and get some natural immunity. So we're going to get through one more winter. We're all going to get sick. Those of us who are going to get sick, and then some of us aren't going to get sick, and we're going to get another booster or whatever, right? And then what's going to happen is at that point, I think we'll be at a herd immunity. So the majority of the population would have had some form of a good sense of immunity to this. And then I think what will happen is then we're going to it's going to look more like a regular flu season where it circulates throughout the year. It's only going to attack the extremes of age. We're going to get it sometimes. And if we do, it's like a cold or a flu. A lot less people are going to be dying. We're not going to have to worry about people as much. Some years are going to be worse than others because different strain pops out. But I think hopefully by this time next year, we'll be at a better place where we're like a regular cold and flu season again upon us. And we'll have enough immunity amongst all of us. And that's not about just vaccine. That's just about natural immunity plus vaccines. And so I think nature, right? Mother Nature is going to take everything, the way it's going to take its course, going to take its course. And I think that's how we're going to come back to sense of normalcy. But everybody else, we're going to have to push politics aside. We're going to have to start to trust and love one another again and support each other and not make it about pointing fingers and and on both sides of the aisle, right? We're not going to get mad at those who choose whatever, and those who choose to whatever are not going to get mad at those who are making other decisions. And as we do that, I think we'll get back to a little sense of normalcy. So we're on our way there. We're almost there. I think Hawaii, if anybody can pull through, it's us.
Yep.
Right? Hawaii can pull through. And then
Aloha spirit is strong, man.
Yeah, it is, bro. It is.
Yeah.
And then favorite surfers is probably the harder question for me to answer. So I put it for number 2. But I think I think hands down it's Andy Irons, the Irons brothers. So they're about the same age as me, give or take. I think Andy is a couple years younger than me. But growing up, watching him and Bruce competing against each other and then working themselves up into the ranks of world competition, I think Andy ended up winning three championships back to back, 2002, 2003, 2004, something like that, where he was right there competing with Kelly. When Kelly was in his prime, Andy was right there. And Kelly and Andy are battling it out every year. And that was just like a sight to see. And those guys were incredible free surfers and then good competitive surfers. But more importantly, they were just incredible free surfers. And he's got a beautiful wife and a beautiful son that unfortunately didn't get to see his dad when he was growing up. But Billabong has gotten behind them, and they're still taking care of his son Axel.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
And his wife. But yeah, I think they're they're probably the most fun for me watching.
That's funny you said his name, because I remember he came on the stage at Guns N' Roses concert, right? And the Iron Sun, because he was named after Axl.
Oh, Axl. Yeah.
Wow. When we were there, right, John? He was there.
Oh.
Yeah, I remember that.
Wow.
Okay, that makes sense. My old school surfer favorite pro was Derek Ho. I seen him win
Uncle D.
What was it at Sandy's? Was Gotcha. The Gotcha Pro was at Sandy's,
Gotcha.
right?
Oh wow. Wow, yeah.
I seen him win that, and ever since then I was like, oh, this. And then I had a poster of him in pipe, like getting barreled, and I've always thought that was like the coolest picture ever. And that was my guy when I was young.
Well, when he left this earth, which was too early, which was not too long ago, he was still the king of pipeline at the day.
Yeah,
the king of pipe.
For sure.
He had first pick of every wave that pipe, and everybody will get behind that. So he was the king of pipe when he passed away. Still,
that's a cool story. Yeah.
Wow.
All right, man. Well, brah, I appreciate you coming on the show. I appreciate you definitely clearing up a lot of myths and giving us more facts that people can utilize to make good choices, however they may want to choose. But I know it's not an easy topic to talk about. I know a lot of people think they know everything. So it's kind of good to get an actual doctor's perspective and someone who actually has some information that's usable.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I mean, I'm not an expert. I'm not claiming to be an expert, right? That's what the experts are for. But I'm just trying to synthesize that information, right? And then just break it down for people to understand. Thank you so much for, I mean, that's what I do every day. But thank you so much for letting me be here.
Right.
It was so cool to be here today, bro.
Yeah. So then we can find you on Instagram, SpencerChun_, and that's your personal page. But for your surf brand, we can find you Lineage Surf, and that's your guys' Instagram. And hopefully that'll grow and people will get to check out your brand and that stuff. And of course, you have a website, lineagesurf.com. And bro, your stuff is cool. I got some cool gear from you. I appreciate it, and so did my daughter. And yeah, she's been rocking it at the school. We got to get Boy Band John a shirt or something.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, all right. For sure.
And you can follow Boy Band John on Instagram. BBJ8, the letter 08 on Instagram. Go give him a follow. And he's coming out with some new stuff, some new 808 scene stuff coming out soon, which I'm looking forward to. And of course, Above the Bridge, you can find us at Above the Bridge Pod. atbpod.com, Above the Bridge Podcast on Instagram and on YouTube. Thanks again, man. I gotta get your dad on next soon. I got your both brothers.
Hey, thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Right on. All right, shakas for the cameras. And shout out to the Artist Group Network. Aloha.